What if I told you that in just one day of testing, Lewis Hamilton has understood more about the new Ferrari SF26 than Charles Leclerc himself? And that could completely change the balance of power within the team this season? The SF26, the result of months of development in Maranello, arrived on the runway with a clear mission: to correct the chronic inconsistencies of the SF25. Ferrari opted for a more aggressive philosophy in terms of aerodynamics and worked especially on expanding the car's operating window. The first track data confirmed progress. The chassis showed signs of greater torsional rigidity, the downforce was more stable at high speed, and the correlation between simulation and wind tunnel seemed to have improved. However, not everything was perfect. During the first rounds, nuances began to emerge. The car had a livelier rear, especially in slow corners, and the thermal management of the rear tires still required fine adjustments. These details, which for some drivers could have meant doubts, were what Hamilton interpreted as opportunities. And that's the real twist. Hamilton did not behave like a newcomer. From the first stint, his reading of the car was surgical. Not only did he know how to adapt to the new environment, but he also revealed aspects of the SF26 that not even Ferrari engineers had fully identified. While Leclerc gave mixed impressions in the debriefings, still testing the car's limits under braking and corner transitions, Hamilton was already drawing up a technical roadmap. What worked, what didn't, and above all, how to get the car into its optimal performance zone. But the most revealing thing was not only his ability to analyze, but the speed with which he felt comfortable pushing the car to the limit. In an environment in which other drivers were still focused on checking reliability or understanding the new regulations, Hamilton was already driving with the fluidity of someone who knows his work tool. His corrections and curves were minimal, the steering input suggested full confidence in the front axle, and his pace in long runs began to set benchmarks that even surprised rival engineers. What is happening between Lewis Hamilton and the SF26 is not a simple story of adaptation, but an extraordinary case of technical reading and automotive sensibility. In the Bahrain tests, the Briton has made it clear that he not only understands the language of the new Ferrari, but that he translates it at a level that is well above average. Where others are still interpreting ambiguous signs of car behavior, he is already performing advanced diagnostics, identifying dynamic patterns and proposing empirically based solutions. And this is where the comparison with Charles Leclerc becomes inevitable and revealing. From a technical point of view, the SF26 represents a profound evolution with respect to the SF25. The new technical regulations have made it possible to redesign the aerodynamic architecture and review the general balance principles. Ferrari has implemented a more aggressive flat bottom, a complete redesign of the rear diffuser, and has worked especially on reducing straight-line drag. At first glance, the car seems more stable, faster at the top, and more predictable on its rear axle. But as is often the case in F1, first impressions do not always reveal the whole truth. Hamilton's long stints in Sakir have been crucial in deciphering that second level of reading. In the onboard cameras you can see how the SF26 allows Hamilton to operate with a style that he had not been able to apply for years. Progressive rotation of the rear axle at corner entry, small and precise corrections at the apex, and dosed, almost intuitive traction at exit. This suggests that the car has a balanced platform, capable of generating confidence, but also sensitive to very specific parameters: rear suspension height, hybrid maps, and tire pressure in changing conditions. And that's where Hamilton is making a difference. Because while Leclerc still shows a certain degree of uncertainty, especially in situations where the track loses temperature or changes the level of grip, Hamilton seems to anticipate these changes naturally. According to information leaked from the debriefs in Bahrain, the Briton has focused on three key elements. The first, the car's aggressiveness at corner entry. The SF26 can be required to rotate strongly without losing its rear unpredictably, which for Hamilton is a tactical advantage to attack in the early phases of the turn. The second, braking stability, a factor that depends almost exclusively on having the rear height perfectly calibrated. And the third, traction in the second sector of Sakir, where the car still does not deliver all its energy efficiently and critical time is lost. This last point is perhaps the most notable divergence between the two pilots. Leclerc has been more vocal about the car's inconsistencies in slow corners, reporting that torque delivery and mechanical grip are highly variable depending on track condition. Instead, Hamilton, far from considering it a structural weakness, interprets it as a tuning issue, focused on the programming of the hybrid map and torque control. For him, it is not so much a problem with the car, but with how its potential is being interpreted and used. This level of analysis is not new at Hamilton, but its application at Ferrari is. Unlike his last years at Mercedes, where he fought against a flawed aerodynamic concept from the beginning, he now seems to have in his hands a platform with internal logic on which he can build. And that completely changes your approach. It allows you to dedicate yourself to the fine details, to the art of fine-tuning tense through small adjustments, something you've been wanting to do for years without being limited by structural correlation issues. Another aspect that cannot be overlooked is its ability to adapt its style to the nature of the car. Hamilton has slightly modified his cornering inputs, using a style closer to that of Leclerc. Higher minimum speed when cornering, less aggressive braking, and more confidence in lateral support. But what makes his approach different is that, even when he adopts these parameters, he maintains his dynamic correction capacity with an ease that not even Leclerc has shown consistently in these tests. And that speaks of a rapport between driver and machine that, at this point in the year, is simply unusual. The paddock has begun to take notice. Not only because of the times that Hamilton has set, which were already competitive in themselves, but because of how he has reached them. There are no signs of overpiloting or unnecessary aggressiveness. Just precision, economy of movement, and increasing mastery of the SF26. In a season where performance windows are so narrow and the margins of error are minimal, this difference in reading may be what tips the balance within Ferrari. Ultimately, what Hamilton is discovering about the SF26 are not secrets hidden in carbon fiber. It is something much more subtle and dangerous for its rivals. It is understanding the emotional language of the car, its limits, its intentions, and it is translating it into action. While others try to decipher what the car wants to tell them, he is already writing a new narrative with it. And that, in Formula One, is usually the prelude to greatness. What began as a media mystery about how Lewis Hamilton would fit into the Ferrari structure is beginning to become a silent but profound transformation in the team's internal dynamics. And what is most surprising is not that Hamilton is performing well, but that he is beginning to change the way Ferrari thinks, acts, and communicates within its own technical and human ecosystem. And all this has just begun. The season has not yet officially started, and yet, at the heart of Ferrari, new unwritten rules are already being written. Rules that are not dictated from the management, nor from the offices of Maranello, but from cockpit number 44. And what happens from now on will not only define the future of the Scuderia, but also Hamilton's final legacy in Formula One. Because if anyone can transform Ferrari from within, that person is not a technician, nor a team leader. It is Lewis. What happened on the first day of testing in Bahrain is not just another anecdote from the start of the season. It is a profound symptom of something that goes far beyond immediate performance on the track. It is the beginning of a narrative that can set the pulse of the entire year 2025 in Formula One. Because we are not simply facing a driver who has quickly adapted to a new car. We are witnessing one of the great champions in history rediscovering a motivation that seemed dormant, rediscovering the joy of riding a machine that, although imperfect, responds to its language. And in doing so, Lewis Hamilton has not only surprised those around him, he has changed expectations. To understand the magnitude of this moment, we must put it in context. Hamilton is coming off frustrating years with Mercedes, in which the car did not allow him to compete regularly at the highest level. During that period, many voices began to suggest that his era was over, that he no longer had the hunger or energy to dominate again. However, the simple act of changing teams, of dressing in red, has resurrected something inside him. He has not come to Ferrari to live a golden retirement. He has arrived to compete. And that first day of testing is living proof that the fire continues to burn. The speed with which it has managed to connect with the SF26 is not a product of chance. It is the consequence of years of experience, technical maturity, and a deep understanding of modern motorsport. But it is also a declaration of intent. In a category where differences are measured in thousands, the fact that Hamilton was the first to detect the nuances of the car's behavior, to correctly interpret the symptoms of traction, stability under braking, or the aerodynamic response in mid-corner, means that it is several steps ahead on the learning curve. In a structure like Ferrari, where historically changes are slow and internal processes are complex, having someone to bridge that adaptation gap is priceless. Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.